Hey guys, Tony here, and I'm back to do something I've been meaning to do for a little while now, and that is to do an album review of Neil Young and Crazy Horse's latest album, Psychedelic Pill. Now, if you happen to be new to my channel and don't already know it, I am an absolute Neil Young fanatic. Yeah, I'm a Neil Young fanboy. What can I say? I have been since I was about 15. I've been closely following his career since about 1995. So I may not be the greatest person in the world to give an unbiased review of a Neil Young album, but that being said, I'm willing to admit that not all of his work in the past, say, 10 years has been absolutely stellar. Some of it's been hit and miss, but every album had these tracks on it, you know. Every album seemed to hint at this greatness that was still there, and that you just knew, as good as some of his work was, Lanois, which I absolutely adore, and that album came out at a time for me which was like, I was exploring a lot of out there sort of music, dronier stuff, and here comes Neil, my all-time favorite artist, with this sort of strange album, you know, which I absolutely adore. But even that, every one of his albums just hinted at this sort of greatness that you knew was still there, and that at any time the guy could make just this phenomenal album, you know, like a classic Neil Young album. Like, you knew he could still do it. If he wanted to, he would just make this album. And I think a lot of people sort of felt that way, you know. It's like this promise was there. You knew it was he was still capable of doing it. And this, if anything, is that promise fulfilled. This is a fantastic album. Easily Neil's best album since the 90s, you know. It might be the best Crazy Horse album since, like, Broken Arrow. It might even be better than Broken Arrow. It's kind of yet to be seen, but this is fantastic. Now, for me, Neil with Crazy Horse is tops, period. There's something about when he plays with them, it's just something special. And even Neil says it. You know, he said it many times. Playing with them, it frees him up, and he's able to explore more. For me, it's just them playing together. It's just exciting. It's always been said about Crazy Horse that they're not the most technically gifted players in the world, and they play like right there out on the edge. It's like any flubbed note, any missed beat, and the whole thing is just going to disintegrate. And they're perfectly capable of doing that, and it kind of just makes it exciting. But at the same time, they play with this sensitivity that, you know, there's something there that, you know, you understand kind of why Neil can play like how he does with them, and he plays like that with nobody else. There's also this sort of jazzy, I always felt there was this jazzy element to Crazy Horse that I can't fully explain. There's a lot of improvisation going on, but I don't know, there's something about it, and I'm just glad they're still around doing this. And now, they came out with an album earlier this year, which was Americana. Now, Neil also came out with his book, Waging Heavy Peace. Now, here's the album. A lot of people weren't crazy about this album. I loved it. For me, an album with Crazy Horse. Now, they're not jamming, they're doing covers, as most of us probably know, but I still think it's phenomenal. If you read Waging Heavy Peace, you know Neil gave up smoking weed and drinking really for the first time in his life, and he wasn't writing songs, which is unthinkable. He was really worried about how he would, you know, if he can write songs straight, you know. So I think Americana was a way to make music with Crazy Horse without him writing songs yet. And I think he just kind of figured, hey, we'll get in the studio, the songs will come, and they obviously did. And he probably figured, hey, if the songs don't come, which again is unthinkable, the guy's a writer, you know, there's still this album. So, and I think it's great. It's not supposed to be groundbreaking. It's an album of covers. It's not, you know, these guys are having fun playing together, and you can hear that. I love it. But anyway, back to Psychedelic Pill. Phenomenal. Phenomenal album. Centered around 3 long tracks really, but there's 4 other shorter tracks that are also, you know, phenomenal. The opening track, which is Drifting Back, 27-minute track, and it's not the greatest song on the album, but it's still great to just hear Neil and Crazy Horse just jam for that long. Just Neil again, really just taking off and exploring, and just he's just going somewhere else playing this stuff. I can't imagine that he sat down and wrote the lyrics to this song. I think if anything, he had the chorus, this chorus of "Hey now now, hey now now, I'm drifting back," and they're jamming on it. And I bet you, I would guess Neil probably just was riffing off the top of his head, where he kind of bitches about MP3s and sound quality and religion and commercialism, and he's saying he's gonna get a hip hop haircut, so it's like it's got to be like off the top of his head. There's something about that song that I really like. It's like the tone that Neil uses on his guitar. It's like, for some reason, it reminds me of being at amphitheaters as a teenager, going to concerts. Like, I saw a lot of shows that way. Sitting on the lawn, you buy a cheap ticket, you're outside on the lawn, and that guitar, the music just sort of echoing in the summertime. It just makes me think of that. But still, it's a cool track. 27 minutes, and it's split. It's the whole first side and part of the second side, so they had to split it. It's so long. Psychedelic Pill, the title track, is sort of a Cinnamon Girl type rocker. Now there's 2 versions of that on here. The regular version, the main version, I guess, they use this sort of phaser effect, and it's really heavy on it. I think they use it to give it sort of a psychedelic sound. There's also a version without that effect, which I actually prefer, but still, either way, it's a cool song. Ramada Inn, probably my second favorite song on here. 17 minutes or so. Again, Neil's guitar playing, it's just it's like heart-wrenching song about a couple growing old and sort of growing apart, the problems that they have, and just each day starting, like that's the chorus, a new day, and yeah, it's there's like this thing to it. It's heart-wrenching. You gotta hear it. Fantastic. Could easily fit in. It tells a story. It could easily fit in on Greendale. Has that sort of feel. Born in Ontario, easily like a Canadian anthem there. It's a great little like stomper, country rock sort of thing, which Crazy Horse does so well. Twisted Road, same thing. Phenomenal track, where Neil sort of gives a nod to all the music that meant a lot to him. He references Dylan and hearing Like a Rolling Stone for the first time, and he mentions Roy Orbison and the Grateful Dead, and it's just a cool track. Yeah, that was Twisted Road. She's Always Dancing. Fantastic song. One of the best songs on this album. It's sort of like a Hurricane's little sister, if to compare it to something. Great playing on it. It's just a great song. You got to hear that one. She's Always Dancing. For the Love of Man, which, if I was going to say that there was a weak spot on the album, it's that, but it's not. It's not a bad song. It's an old song. Neil actually wrote it in the 80s for his son, who was born handicapped. And it has this like religious imagery that, I've heard other versions of it. And this version, it's like, it's pushing towards being like a Christmas song with the bells and the... but it's still a beautiful song and very like heartfelt. Now the song that we're listening to, and hands down the best song on the album, is Walk Like a Giant. Phenomenal. This is one of Neil's best songs, and this song is just worth the price of admission, period. Again, 17 minutes or so, around there long. Fantastic. I don't think Ragged Glory had anything this ragged. The guitar at points is just like, he's just melting his amps. Like, here's a guy that's 66 years old, and he's just, his playing is so fiery, and like, the feedback and everything else. The lyrics are just the lyrics are, people talk a lot about Neil Young's lyrics recently. You know, and his lyrics aren't so deep, they're not so vague anymore, maybe. There's sort of a Zen-like quality to his lyrics now that then there's like their simplicity, and I appreciate that. And anything that he might lack, which I don't think he is, but anything he might lack in his lyrical writing, his guitar playing, it just makes up for it 150%. It's just that feeling that he plays with is just, and this song is just full of it. Same with Ramada Inn. Those tracks are just the two best tracks on the album. The lyric is, you know, I used to walk like a giant on the land. Now I feel like a leaf floating in the stream. I think that has to do with his aneurysm. I think he might have said something to the effect that since that aneurysm, it changed his outlook, and he sort of feels more like a leaf floating in the stream now. And I think the walk like a giant part might have to do with a quote by David Briggs, where his longtime producer, who said something to the effect that, you know, when Neil has his axe in his hand, he's 10 feet tall, his aura is 10 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and, you know, and it's true. I've seen him so many times live, and to see him up close playing, it's like, when he starts getting into it, it's like he you know, he's 30 years younger all of a sudden. It's amazing. Phenomenal. And I'm going to be seeing them again in 3 days, and I cannot wait. This will be my 18th Neil Young show. I think the 8th time that I'm seeing him with Crazy Horse. Cannot wait for this. But yeah, Psychedelic Pill. Now, obviously, this is the vinyl pressing. Now, I've never heard so much bitching about the price of a record than about this. And I would love to know more about what goes into this. Like, he pressed it at Palace, which is like the greatest pressing plant in the world. 3 LPs. And it's beautiful. It really is. You open it up, and look at that. I mean, beautiful. Now, you probably, knowing him, Neil, he probably used, this is probably recycled cardstock, which is a lot more expensive. He probably used special inks and all that. But I don't know. I would love to know more of what goes into this. And I will say, this sounds phenomenal. Now, we're listening to the CD right now, but this is an album that's made to be cranked. It's one of those albums that the louder you turn it up, the better it sounds. It's really well done. It sounds fantastic. Now again, if you're hesitant on buying this, don't wait too long, because I guarantee you it's going to go out of print really fast and the price is going to skyrocket. But I think right now you can find it for about 50 bucks. I think, you know, Amazon might have it for a little $65, $70. But Psychedelic Pill, great album. And without question, it's going to be one of my favorite albums of the year. Love it. So, thank you for watching. There's my review. It's late, so leave me some comments. I appreciate it. Have a good one.